Alright, so I'm back again, tackling more racial issues. I got told the other day that I turn everything into a racial issue, and that I've been labeling people. I don't know if people thought I was labeling people because I called Caleb out on making some racist comments. I didn't call him a racist, though. I just referred to his actions as something that would be labeled as racism and left it at that. If you if I made him look like a racist, that's up to your own interpretation, but I didn't call him a racist. So I didn't label anybody. Um Anyways, moving on from that because that was ridiculous. I didn't label anyone. The issue where I got called out for making everything into racial issues is um, first I posted a video with homeless people reading tweets, mean tweets like you see on Jimmy Kimmel, and I made the comment, white privilege. Now I'm going to say right now, that probably wasn't the best comment I've ever made in my life, but, and I got told that I can't judge people that I haven't seen. It's like, people do it all the time, but I'm not a speech expert, but that's the type of comment you would hear from an ignorant kid or something like that who could have been of any race. I just happened to say white privilege because I thought it would most likely identify an ignorant white teenager or something like that. That's what it sounded like from the rhetoric, is what it would have, who it could have been. That's just my own personal opinion. Sometimes people don't like your opinions, and that's why people had a problem with it, why it wasn't the best comment ever, because apparently I'm supposed to type facts all the time. I didn't know that. Anyways, so the video I posted later on that day, I think it was later on that day, it might have been the next day, was a video that showed actual white privilege. And a lot of people who just happen to be white have told me they have a problem with the term because they think it is racist. So the video is narrated by a black woman describing her experience in a supermarket with her white-looking stepsister. So the encounter goes, white clerk, white stepsister checks out. They exchange friendly conversation for a while, gets her items, checks them out, gives her a check, pays for it, gets her bags, walks over to the side, and is waiting. Then the black woman comes up. Immediately, there's no real conversation, just a, hey, how's it going? Good. That's the end of it, really. Her daughter, the black woman's daughter, noticed immediately how there was a difference there between the white-looking woman and the black-looking woman. And so that's obviously racist. That there's some sort of disconnect. She doesn't feel the same way about black people as white people. It gets further developed as we go on. So she hands her a check just like her stepsister. The lady asks for identification. Her daughter starts crying. She's like, sometimes you have to pick your battles. Gives up the ID. Everything's good. Then she goes to grab the list of people who've given them bad checks. And at that point is when the white-looking stepsister steps in with her white privileges and fixes the situation by calling her out and says, why are you doing this? You didn't do this with me. It's not company policy. Why are you doing this? The ladies behind them then were like, why are you doing this? And then they brought the store manager over and the situation was resolved and fixed. The systemic cause is still there though, so you can't just fix racism with one thing. On that video, I tagged somebody who I'd had a previous conversation with. We seem to be getting along and understanding each other pretty well now. We can come to agreement on certain things, which is always good. So I tagged him on it to see what his views were and how he thought about it. and then other people joined in as well. So that's when people started saying, again, previously, that they think the term white privilege is racist. And I'm going to tell you why it's not. So the definition for white privilege is a term for societal privileges that benefit people identified as white. So you don't even have to be white. If you look white, you can pass with some of this stuff. In Western countries, like the United States, beyond what is commonly experienced by non-white people, so people of color, under the same social, political, or economic circumstances. The person who's commenting that they think this is racist, I understand where they're coming from and how they feel personally about it, because they happen to be white, and this is a term using race to define. It's not a descriptor. That's the problem here. He's using the second word here to use it as a descriptor. Privilege is not a descriptor in that sentence at all. It's referring to these microaggressions that black people, that Indian people have to face. So that's why it's not racist. The example I used on the video to try and explain this to him was that you can't say black on black violence is racist, because black on black violence happens and it's a real thing. It's a problem. But you can't just deny that it's something. I can't be like, oh, I think black on black violence is racist because I think you can't say that because I'm black, or I'm not black, but if I was a black person, I can't say black on black violence is racist because I know it's something that happens. I think this is something that he's not aware of, what the definition is and what it's trying to explain. He's using it as a descriptor instead. He's using privilege as a descriptor. So you can't say, oh, I think white privilege is racist when it's something that does exist, can even be used for good. I don't think black on black violence can be used for good, but white privilege can be used in a good way, like shown in the video, when the white stepsister stepped in and used her white privilege to fix the situation, to change the entire momentum of everybody around them as well. So I can understand why they think white privilege is racist, because it's targeting them or whatever, how they feel about it, because they're using it as a descriptor and not as what it's actually used to describe societal situations. So he went on to say that using any color to describe something is racist, because one of the reasons why he's using it as a descriptor, and I know he's using it as a descriptor, is because he's talking about special treatment. If you receive special treatment because of your race, that's racism, not privilege. That's a direct quote from them. Privilege is not the descriptor there. It's not because I'm white I have privilege. It's because I'm white or look white I can influence certain social situations that happen around me, bring things to light that normally are ignored. That's what white privilege is. It's not a term saying all white people are privileged. No one thinks that. You might be more poor than a different race. I don't make as much money as Eric Thomas is. He's a motivational speaker. I want to do motivational speaking. Does that make him black privileged? No. It means he has certain attributes about him that make him successful. That's a personal level thing. But if you're looking at it entirely, white people don't have to deal with getting pulled over. White people don't have to deal with worrying and teaching their kids about how to deal with the police because there have been these incidents in the past where people who are racist or who are not seeing race lines correctly, per se, are making bad decisions. And then people die. So, I'm going to go to the end here. He's looking at it more economically too, as well, where he's not white privileged because he doesn't make as much money as some black people. It's like, yeah, that's true, but those black people might get pulled over because they're black and you won't. And what he's questioning what special privileges he has for being white. That's not what we're saying. If you wanted me to give an example, you don't have to get pulled over. You don't have your land rights taken away so that they can build a pipeline because your agreements don't matter to the US government anymore. That's what white privilege is, in a nutshell. So, we're going to cut it off there. It's at about 11 minutes. I just wanted to address this because he seemed pretty offended that it was being used in the way that I was using it, and that other people who had commented on my post were using it. I don't think he necessarily understood what the term actually means, and hopefully this clears a little bit of it up. I'll have a personal conversation with him too, probably about this, or we'll see if he comments on it. But that's me just trying to do my best to explain what it is. It's not saying that you have certain privileges and are better off than people. You just don't have to deal with the microaggressions and the bullshit day-to-day stuff that black people do have to deal with. And you might not think that's a huge problem, but to people of color, it pisses them off. And that's why they're still upset. We're good. Have a good day. Be safe. Love people. Don't hate. That's all I can say. Peace out.